The massive alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, like death itself had come calling. 200 warships, each one bigger than a city, hung in the void like metallic vultures waiting to feast. Their hulls gleamed with an otherworldly shine that hurt to look at directly. Commander Hae-Jin Park gripped the railing of his command bridge aboard Defense Station Alpha, humanity's most advanced orbital platform. The station had been disguised as a simple research facility for decades, but today its true purpose would be revealed. His dark eyes scanned the tactical displays, showing the alien formation, each red dot representing a vessel capable of glassing entire continents. "My God," whispered Tactical Officer Young-Soo Kang, his face pale as he studied the energy readings. "Sir, each of those ships is putting out more power than our entire Pacific Fleet combined." The bridge crew worked in tense silence, their fingers dancing across holographic interfaces as they gathered intelligence on the invaders. These weren't the first aliens humanity had encountered through deep space telescopes and radio signals, but they were the first to arrive at Earth's doorstep with obvious hostile intent. Lieutenant Min-Ho Kim's voice cracked as he announced, "Sir, incoming transmission on all frequencies. They're talking to us." The main display shimmered to life, revealing a nightmare made real. The alien commander stood nearly 3 meters tall, its body a horrifying blend of insect and machine. 4 muscular arms extended from its torso, each ending in claws that could tear through steel. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed across its chitinous skull like a living tattoo, and its multifaceted eyes reflected the light of 1,000 stars. When it spoke, the universal translator rendered its words in a voice like grinding metal, each syllable dripping with casual contempt. "Primitive species. Of the 3rd planet from your yellow star, I am War Leader Thakmor of the Krillian Dominion. Your pathetic world has been selected for integration into our glorious empire." The creature's mandibles clicked as it continued. "You have been granted the honor of 72 standard hours to surrender unconditionally. Submit to our will, and your species will serve as laborers in our great civilization. You will mine our asteroids, build our ships, and feed our war machine. Resist this generous offer, and we will reduce your planet to molten slag. Your cities will burn, your oceans will boil, and your children will scream as they die." The transmission cut to black, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Several crew members had gone white with terror, while others gripped their weapons with shaking hands. Communications Officer Soo-Jin Lee was the first to find her voice. "Sir, they're broadcasting the same message on every frequency we monitor. Television, radio, internet, military channels, everything. Every government on Earth is receiving this ultimatum right now." Hae-Jin could imagine the chaos erupting across the planet. Panic in the streets, governments scrambling to respond, families huddling together in fear. But he also knew something the aliens didn't. Humanity had been preparing for this day for half a century. "Patch me through to Earth Command," he ordered, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "Use Protocol 7 encryption, it's time." The secure channel crackled to life, connecting him directly to the underground command bunker, buried deep beneath the mountains of South Korea. The facility had been carved from solid rock and shielded against every form of detection known to science. President Jin-Woo Choi's weathered face appeared on the screen, his eyes holding the weight of humanity's survival. Behind him, the Emergency Council was already assembling, holographic projections of world leaders flickering to life around the circular table that had been built for this exact scenario. "Commander Park," the president said calmly, "I take it our uninvited guests have made their intentions clear." "Yes, sir. Complete surrender or extinction. Classic conquest doctrine." Jin-Woo nodded grimly as the last of the world leaders materialized in the council chamber. The Brazilian president looked terrified. The Russian premier was studying tactical displays with cold calculation, and the European Union representative was already drafting surrender documents. "Recommendations?" Jin-Woo asked the assembled leaders. "We have no choice," the European representative said, his voice shaking. "Mr. President, their technology is obviously centuries beyond ours. Look at those ships. They're like something from our most advanced science fiction. We're still using chemical rockets while they travel between stars. Resistance is suicide." "Agreed," added the Australian Prime Minister. "We need to negotiate terms. Maybe we can minimize casualties if we surrender immediately." But Jin Woo's smile was cold as winter ice. "Is that really our only option? Admiral Dae Hyun Yoon, please give our friends a status report." A new hologram materialized, a grizzled military veteran whose scarred face spoke of decades serving humanity's defense. Admiral Yoon straightened to attention, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Mr. President, the Prometheus project is fully operational. All hidden facilities have been activated and are standing by. We have 400 combat vessels deployed across the solar system, with crews ready for immediate action." The shocked silence that followed was deafening. Several world leaders stared in disbelief, while others began shouting questions all at once. Jin Woo raised his hand for silence. "Gentlemen, for 50 years we've been preparing for this exact moment. Every asteroid mining operation, every deep space research mission, every scientific expedition to the outer planets, all of it was cover for building humanity's true defense fleet. The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. Humanity had been playing the long game, preparing for first contact to go badly while publicly maintaining the fiction that they were alone in the universe. "Humanity will not kneel to these monsters," Jin Woo declared, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had dedicated his life to this moment. "We've spent 5 decades building the tools to defend our world. Now we'll use them." Admiral Dae Hyun Yoon had been waiting for this moment for 23 years. The command center of Battleship Incheon hummed around him, its advanced systems powered by fusion reactors that had been quietly perfected while the world above thought humanity was still struggling with fossil fuels. The ship itself was a masterpiece of deception. From the outside it looked like a large asteroid, complete with fake mineral deposits and simulated geological formations. The Incheon wasn't alone. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt, camouflaged as space rocks and mining equipment, dozens of human warships waited in perfect silence. Their crews had trained for decades, some never seeing Earth again after being assigned to these deep space positions. They were humanity's hidden sword, and today that sword would be drawn. "Admiral?" Captain Bo-Ram Shin's voice crackled through the quantum communication array from her destroyer Mokpo, disguised as a mining barge near Jupiter's moons. "All stealth fields are holding steady. Long-range sensors show the Krillian fleet maintaining formation at the system's edge. They're not even running active scans. They really do think we're helpless." Dae-hyun allowed himself a grim smile. The Krillians had made the same mistake as every other galactic empire. They assumed that any species without visible space fleets was primitive and defenseless. They had no idea that humanity had been watching them for decades, studying their tactics, learning their weaknesses, and preparing for this exact scenario. "Status report from all battle groups," he commanded. "Battle Group Alpha reporting ready," came the voice of Captain Hyun Woo Jang from the heavy cruiser Gangnam, hidden in the shadow of Mars. "Our railguns are charged, and target solutions are locked." "Battle Group Beta standing by," reported Captain Yoon-ji Han from the battleship Seoul, concealed within Saturn's rings, where the ice and debris provided perfect cover. "Kinetic torpedoes are loaded and ready for launch. Battle Group Gamma ready for action," announced Captain Min-seo Park from the carrier Busan, floating in the asteroid belt with fighter squadrons armed and waiting. "Our pilots are eager to show these aliens what human determination looks like." The holographic tactical display showed the positions of all 400 human vessels spread across the solar system in a carefully orchestrated web of destruction. Each ship had been positioned to create overlapping fields of fire, turning the entire system into a trap. The Krillians thought they were the hunters, but they had become the prey. "Communications, open a channel to the Krillian fleet," Dae-hyun ordered. "Let's see how confident they are when they realize they're not dealing with Stone Age primitives." The main display flickered to life, showing War Leader Thakmor's grotesque face. The alien's 4 eyes gleamed with smug satisfaction, and his mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species. "Ah, the humans finally respond," Thakmor said, his translator making his voice sound like grinding machinery. "Have you come to grovel, to beg for mercy? I might allow some of your younglings to survive as pets if you amuse me." "Not exactly," Dae-hyun replied, his voice calm as ice water. "We're here to make you a counteroffer." Thakmor's laughter was like the sound of breaking glass. "Counteroffer? Impossible, little human. You have no weapons, no fleet, no position from which to negotiate. Our sensors show nothing but a few primitive orbital stations and some mining equipment. You are insects before the might of the Dominion." "Are we?" Daehyun's eyes hardened. "You know, Thakmor, your species has conquered over 1,000 worlds. You've faced countless alien civilizations, but you've never faced humanity before. What difference could that possibly make?" Daehyun nodded to his weapons officer. "Lieutenant, Eugene Park, illuminate our guests. Show them what they're really dealing with." "With pleasure, Admiral." Eugene's fingers danced across her console. "All units, drop stealth fields on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." Across the entire solar system, humanity's hidden fleet revealed itself in a display that would have made the ancient gods weep with wonder. 400 warships dropped their camouflage simultaneously, their hulls gleaming in the light of the sun as sophisticated stealth technology shut down in perfect coordination. The Krillian sensors went absolutely insane. Alarm klaxons wailed throughout their fleet as ship after ship appeared on their displays. From behind asteroids, gas giant moons, planetary rings, and even from solar orbit where they had been hiding in the sun's corona using heat-resistant hulls that pushed the boundaries of materials, science. Thakmor's confident expression shattered, like glass. His four eyes widened in shock, and his mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme distress in his species. This is impossible. Our advanced scouts surveyed this system for months. We detected no military installations, no shipyards, no defensive platforms. Your scouts weren't looking hard enough, Daehyun said, his voice carrying the weight of decades of preparation. Did you really think we'd make it easy for you? Humanity has been expecting visitors like you for a very long time. Captain Hyunwoo. Jang's voice cut through the communication channel from Mars orbit. Admiral, all planetary defense systems are online, requesting permission to reveal lunar installations. Granted. Let's show them the full extent of human ingenuity. On Earth's moon, massive sections of the surface began to move. What had appeared to be natural crater formations and rocky outcroppings suddenly revealed themselves as camouflaged installations. Huge railgun batteries rose from concealed positions, their barrels pointing toward the Krillian fleet with lethal intent. The moon's surface bristled with weapons that had been carefully hidden for decades, disguised as research stations and mining operations. Even more shocking, similar installations became visible on Mars, several asteroids, and the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Humanity had fortified the entire solar system while maintaining the illusion of being a primitive, defenseless species. Impossible, Thakmor whispered, his arrogance crumbling. No species has ever... How did you hide all this? We're very good at keeping secrets, Daehyun replied. Now here's our counteroffer. You have 30 seconds to turn your fleet around and leave our system. Never return and we'll let you live. Stay, and we'll demonstrate why humanity survived. The Ice Age, the Plague Years, 2 world wars, and every other disaster our planet could throw at us. Thakmor's image snarled, showing rows of razor-sharp teeth. You dare threaten the Krillian Dominion? We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have reduced entire star systems to cosmic dust. You are nothing but clever insects. Then you should have learned by now. Captain Yoonji-han's voice cut in from the battleship's soul, her tone cold as the void between stars. That there's always a first time for everything. And today, War Leader, you're going to learn why you should never threaten a species that names its warships after cities that have survived everything the universe could throw at them. The trap was set. The prey had walked into the web. Now, humanity would show the galaxy that some species bite back. The moment of truth had arrived. War Leader Thakmor's rage boiled over at humanity's defiance, his forearms trembling with fury, as he realized these primitive creatures had somehow hidden an entire war fleet from his scouts. The insult was unbearable. No species in the galaxies, recorded history, had ever dared to threaten the Krillian Dominion. Vanguard squadrons, advance! Thakmor roared into his communications array. "Target their moon installations. Show these insects what happens when they dare mock the Dominion's power." 50 of the largest Krillian battleships broke formation, their hulls gleaming with the deadly energy that had reduced countless worlds to ash. Each ship was over 2 kilometers long, bristling with plasma cannons that could melt continents. They had never failed to terrify any species into immediate surrender. Lieutenant Sang-Woo Kim watched the approaching alien formation from deep command, the heavily fortified bunker buried 3 kilometers beneath the lunar surface. His hands flew across the tactical displays as enemy ships accelerated toward Earth's moon, their weapons already beginning to glow with destructive energy. "Incoming plasma bombardment," he shouted into his headset. "Multiple ships targeting our surface. Installations. All batteries prepare for defensive action." The first Krillian volley lit up space like a miniature sun. Streams of superheated plasma lanced toward the moon's surface, each beam carrying enough energy to vaporize a mountain. The aliens expected to see their targets disappear in clouds of vaporized rock and metal. Instead, the moon erupted like a sleeping giant awakening in fury. "All batteries return fire." Lieutenant Commander Ji-Hoon Lee's voice echoed through the command bunker as dozens of hidden installations revealed their true nature. What had looked like innocent research stations and mining operations suddenly bristled with the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created. Massive railgun turrets rose from concealed positions across the lunar surface, their electromagnetic accelerators charging with a sound like thunder. Each weapon was the size of a city block, capable of launching projectiles at 30% the speed of light. The kinetic energy carried by these rounds was beyond anything the Krillians had ever encountered. The first human salvo struck the alien formation like the hammer of an angry god. Tungsten steel projectiles, each one weighing several tons and moving at relativistic speeds, punched through Krillian shields as if they were made of paper. The aliens' energy barriers, designed to deflect plasma and laser weapons, were completely useless against solid matter moving at such incredible velocities. The lead Krillian battleship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a massive predator closing in for the kill. The next moment it was expanding debris, its hull turned into a cloud of superheated metal fragments. The kinetic round had struck with such force that it converted the entire ship into plasma more efficiently than any energy weapon ever could. "Direct hit," Ji-Hoon reported, his voice filled with savage satisfaction. "Target completely destroyed." More railgun rounds followed, each one finding its mark with deadly precision. Human targeting computers, linked by quantum communication networks, shared targeting data instantaneously across the entire defense grid. The Krillians found themselves caught in a crossfire of relativistic projectiles that turned their mighty warships into expanding clouds of debris. "Targets eliminated," Ji-Hoon announced as the tactical display updated. 15 enemy vessels destroyed, 8 more heavily damaged and breaking off. From the bridge of the Incheon, Admiral Dae-hyun watched the slaughter with grim satisfaction. The aliens had expected to face primitive missiles and chemical explosives. Instead, they were learning why humanity had spent 50 years perfecting the art of throwing rocks very, very fast. "All units, commence attack pattern Alpha," he commanded, his voice carrying across the quantum communication network to every human ship in the solar system. "Captain Shin, take your destroyer squadron and hit their left flank. Captain Jang, bring the heavy cruisers around from their right side. Let's show them what three-dimensional warfare looks like." The human fleet moved like a pack of wolves, each ship following predetermined paths that maximized their tactical advantage. Unlike the rigid formations favored by the Krillians, Earth's vessels used every axis of movement, striking from above, below, and all sides simultaneously. Captain Boram Shin's destroyers emerged from the asteroid belt like sharks smelling blood. Her ships were smaller than the Krillian vessels, but they were fast, maneuverable, and packed with weapons that the aliens had never seen before. "Torpedo away," reported Commander Young Jin Nam from the destroyer Ulsan. Kinetic warheads locked. On target. The torpedoes weren't carrying explosive warheads. They didn't need them. Each one was essentially a guided projectile moving at tremendous speed, programmed to punch through alien hulls and tear apart everything inside through pure kinetic energy. Captain Hyunwoo Jang's heavy cruisers struck from the opposite direction, their main guns speaking in unison. "Admiral, their shields are completely ineffective against our kinetic weapons," his voice crackled over the comm. "These rounds are punching straight through like their defenses aren't even there." "Confirmed from our position," added Captain Shin. "They've obviously never faced projectile weapons this advanced. Their entire defensive doctrine is built around energy weapons." It was true. The Krillians had conquered 1,000 worlds using plasma cannons, particle beams, and directed energy weapons. Every species they had encountered fought with similar technology. They had never faced an enemy that had perfected the ancient art of throwing things at the enemy, just at speeds that would make physics professors weep with joy. Thakmor's flagship shuddered under repeated impacts as human rounds tore through his vessel's hull. His bridge erupted in sparks and alien screams as critical systems failed. The mighty war leader, who had personally overseen the conquest of dozens of star systems, found himself facing defeat for the first time in his long military career. "Impossible!" He shrieked at his tactical officer. "How are they penetrating our shields?" "Unknown, war leader. Our energy barriers have no effect on solid projectiles moving at these velocities." Another kinetic round slammed into the flagship's engine section, and the massive ship lurched violently. Warning alarms wailed throughout the vessel as life support systems began failing. "Retreat," Thakmor ordered, his pride finally overcome by the reality of destruction. "All units, fall back to the outer system. We need time to regroup and analyze." "Their weapons!" But Admiral Daehyun had anticipated this exact response. He had studied every battle the Krillians had ever fought, analyzed their tactics, and prepared for every possible scenario. "Captain Han, execute hammer strike," he commanded quietly. Captain Yoonji Han's battleship Seoul had been waiting for this moment. Hidden in Saturn's rings, the massive vessel had remained undetected while charging its most powerful weapon, a gravitational lance that represented the cutting edge of human physics. "Hammer strike ready," Han reported. "Target locked on the enemy flagship." The weapon fired not with light or sound, but with a distortion in space-time itself. The gravitational lance created a focused beam of warped space that traveled at the speed of light toward Thakmor's fleeing vessel. The effect was horrifying to witness. The Krillian flagship didn't explode. It crumpled. The gravitational beam compressed the ship's molecular structure, folding space around it until the mighty vessel collapsed into a sphere of ultra-dense matter no larger than a basketball. Thakmor's final transmission was a scream of disbelief that cut off abruptly as his ship ceased to exist in any recognizable form. "First blood to humanity," Admiral Daehyun announced to his fleet, his voice carrying across the communication network to every human vessel in the solar system. "But this is just the beginning. Today we've shown them that Earth bites back. Tomorrow we hunt." The news traveled faster than light itself through the galaxy's quantum communication networks. On 1,000 worlds, enslaved species huddled around secret receivers, hardly daring to believe what they were hearing. The Krillian Dominion, masters of the galaxy for over 3 centuries, had been defeated. Not just challenged, completely. Destroyed in their first encounter with a species called humans. Admiral Daehyun stood in the war room of Orbital Command Station 1, watching holographic displays that showed the entire local sector. Red markers indicated Krillian positions, supply depots, mining operations, communication relays, and fortress worlds that had served as stepping stones for their empire's expansion. For too long, these positions had been untouchable symbols of alien dominance. The assembled fleet commanders filled the room, their faces showing a mixture of excitement and determination. These were the same officers who had spent decades hiding in the shadows, preparing for a war that many thought would never come. Now they had tasted victory, and they wanted more. "Commanders," Daehyun began, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had just achieved the impossible, "we have a choice to make. We can fortify our solar system, build bigger defenses, and wait for the Krillians to return with reinforcements from their core worlds. Or..." He paused, letting the moment build. "We can take the fight to them." Captain Unjihan leaned forward in her chair, her eyes gleaming with the same fire that had driven her to volunteer for deep space duty 20 years ago. "What exactly are you proposing, Admiral?" Dae-hyun's smile was cold as space itself. "We hunt them down. Every outpost, every supply depot, every ship they have in our sector. We show the galaxy that the age of Krillian dominance is over. No more hiding, no more waiting. We become the hunters." The room erupted in excited voices as the commanders realized what he was suggesting. They weren't just going to defend Earth. They were going to launch a full-scale offensive against an empire that had never lost a war. Captain Hyunwoo Jang slammed his fist on the table. "My heavy cruiser squadron can hit their mining operation in the Kepler system. Intelligence reports suggest they're strip mining 3 planets there for rare minerals. Millions of enslaved workers are being worked to death in those facilities." "Excellent." Dae-hyun nodded, his finger tracing routes across the holographic star map. "Captain Shin, take your destroyer flotilla to the Centauri relay station. It's their main communication hub for this entire sector. Cut off their ability to coordinate, and we'll have them fighting blind." Captain Boram Shin grinned wickedly. "With pleasure, Admiral. My ships can be there in 4 days. Captain Han, you'll lead the main assault force against their regional command center at Vega Prime. That's where they coordinate all military operations in our part of the galaxy. Take it out, and their entire command structure collapses." The planning session continued for hours as human commanders divided up targets across dozens of star systems. Each mission was carefully coordinated to maximize chaos and minimize the enemy's ability to respond. They weren't just launching random attacks, they were systematically dismantling the infrastructure that had allowed the Krillians to dominate this region of space. Over the following weeks, human strike forces appeared throughout Krillian space like vengeful ghosts. The aliens, who had grown comfortable fighting defensive battles against primitive species, had no idea how to respond to humanity's aggressive tactics. Their entire military doctrine was built around intimidation and overwhelming firepower against static targets. They had never faced an enemy that could appear anywhere, strike without warning and vanish before reinforcements arrived. Captain Shin's destroyer flotilla struck the Centauri relay station at what passed for midnight in local time. The massive space station, built into an asteroid and bristling with communication arrays, had been the nerve center of Krillian operations for 50 years. Its alien crews thought themselves untouchable, protected by powerful shields and defensive platforms. They were wrong. "Target acquired," reported Commander Tae-jin Lim from the destroyer Pohang. "Enemy shields are up, but they're not designed to handle kinetic impacts. All ships, fire at will," Captain Shin ordered. The human destroyers unleashed a barrage of railgun rounds that tore through the station's defenses like paper. The Krillian defenders barely had time to sound the alarm before their communication arrays were reduced to twisted metal. Secondary explosions rippled through the facility as power cores overloaded. "Target secured," Shin reported back to Fleet Command. "Communications hub destroyed. They're blind and deaf in this sector." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Captain Yang's heavy cruisers were conducting a very different kind of operation. The Kepler mining system contained 3 worlds where the Krillians had enslaved entire populations to extract rare minerals. Millions of alien workers toiled in conditions that would have made human slave owners sick with disgust. The rescue mission was flawless. Human marines, equipped with powered armor and weapons that could punch through Krillian battle suits, swept through the mining facilities like avenging angels. The few alien guards who tried to resist were cut down in seconds, while the enslaved workers watched in amazement as their chains were literally broken. "Admiral," reported Captain Zhang from the surface of Kepler 442b, "we've liberated over 2 million enslaved beings across the 3 worlds. They're asking who we are and why we're helping them." "Tell them," Dae-hyun replied, "that humanity doesn't tolerate slavery, and tell them they're free to go home." The liberated aliens, creatures of dozens of different species who had been worked nearly to death, looked up at the human marines with expressions of wonder and gratitude. Some of them had been slaves for generations, born in chains and never knowing freedom. Now they were seeing their oppressors' fortresses burning, while strange new beings offered them hope. Intelligence Officer Sujin Kang's voice crackled through the communication system with barely contained excitement. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from subjugated worlds throughout the sector. Word is spreading faster than we could have imagined. Enslaved populations are asking if the rumors are true. Has someone finally defeated the Krillians?" The reports kept coming in. On Proxima Centauri, a rebellion had started when news of the Krillian defeat reached the slave colonies. On Wolf 359, entire mining operations had shut down as workers refused to return to the tunnels. On dozens of worlds, species that had been ground under the Krillian boot for centuries were beginning to believe that freedom might be possible. Dai Hyun looked at the tactical display showing successful mission after successful mission. Human ships were striking targets across hundreds of light years, and every victory inspired more rebellion among the Krillians' victims. "Tell them yes," he said, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's promise to the galaxy. "Tell them someone has finally broken the Krillian chains. Tell them the hunters have become the hunted, and tell them we're just getting started." In the depths of space, hidden human fleets prepared for their next strikes. The Krillian Empire, built on fear and oppression, was about to learn what happened when you threatened a species that had spent its entire evolution learning how to hunt predators. The galaxy was about to change forever. 6 months had passed since the Krillians first appeared at Earth's doorstep with their ultimatum of surrender or death. Now their mighty fortress at Vega Prime, the symbol of alien dominance that had stood for 3 centuries, was dying in the cold vacuum of space. Captain Yunji Han watched from the bridge of her battleship Seoul as the massive space station tore itself apart. The Krillian command center had been built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, its surface bristling with weapons and shield generators that had made it supposedly impregnable. Human kinetic weapons had proven that assumption fatally wrong. "Final salvo, fire for effect," Han ordered, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were witnessing. The Soul's main railguns spoke in unison, sending tungsten projectiles screaming across space at relativistic speeds. Each round hit with the force of a nuclear explosion, but without the radiation. The ancient asteroid fortress, which had coordinated Krillian operations across dozens of star systems, simply came apart like a child's toy hit by a sledgehammer. "Admiral," Captain Han reported through the quantum communication link, "Vega Prime is completely destroyed. The regional command structure is gone. But we have a problem. Regional Governor Krathtel's personal flagship is attempting to escape the system." The alien governor's ship was a massive vessel, nearly 4 kilometers long, and bristling with the most advanced weapons the Krillian Dominion could produce. It had been hiding behind Vega Prime's bulk during the battle, hoping to escape while the humans were distracted by the fortress. "Negative on the escape," Admiral Dae-hyun's voice came back immediately from the Incheon. "I'll handle this personally. All units, maintain position and secure the system." The human battleship Incheon, scarred from months of continuous combat, but still deadly as a striking snake, intercepted the fleeing Krillian vessel at the edge of the Vega system. The 2 massive ships faced each other in the darkness between stars, predator and prey roles, now completely reversed from their first encounter. Governor Krathtel appeared on the main communication screen, his chitinous features twisted with desperation. Unlike the arrogant war leader Thakmor who had first threatened Earth, this alien's forearms were spread in obvious supplication, his bioluminescent markings pulsed rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "Please, Admiral." "Yun?" Krathtel's translator made his voice sound almost human in its pleading tone. "The Krillian Dominion offers you terms, peace between our peoples. Join us as equals in ruling the galaxy. You have proven your strength. Now let us share power. Rule this entire sector in our name, and both our species will prosper." Dae-hyun's expression could have frozen liquid nitrogen. 6 months of constant warfare, of liberating enslaved worlds and seeing the horrors the Krillians had inflicted on countless species, had hardened him into something beyond mercy. "You had your chance for peace when you first entered our solar system," he said, each word falling like a hammer blow. "You could have come as explorers, as traders, as friends seeking to learn about a new species. Instead, you came as conquerors with threats of slavery and death. But we can coexist now. There's room for both our species in this vast galaxy. Think of what we could accomplish together." Dae-hyun was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of judgment. "There is room in the galaxy for the Krillian people, Governor. Your civilians, your children, your non-combatants, they can find peace if they choose it, but there is no room anywhere in this universe for your empire." The Inchen's main gravitational lance began to charge, space itself bending around the weapons-focusing array. Krathtel's eyes widened as he recognized the signatures of the weapon that had already destroyed dozens of his people's greatest warships. "You're making a mistake," the alien shrieked. "The Dominion spans 1,000 worlds. The core fleets will come for you. They'll hunt down every human in the galaxy." "Let them come," Dae-hyun replied simply. "We'll be waiting." The gravitational lance fired, and Regional Governor Krathtel's flagship folded in on itself like origami made of metal and flesh. The last major Krillian presence in the local sector winked out of existence in a brief flare of compressed matter. Across the galaxy, the impossible was becoming reality. The Krillian Dominion, which had ruled through fear and overwhelming force for 1,000 years, was collapsing like a house of cards in a hurricane. Word of their defeats had spread to every enslaved world, every subjugated species, every corner of their empire where beings had suffered under alien oppression. On Proxima Centauri, the reptilian Siskatar people emerged from their underground hiding places, blinking in sunlight they hadn't seen in generations. On Wolf 359, the crystalline Zephi sang their ancient songs of freedom for the first time in 3 centuries. On dozens of worlds, species that had been ground under the Krillian boot were rising up, demanding the liberty that humans had shown was possible. The rebellion wasn't coordinated by any central authority. It was spontaneous, inevitable, unstoppable. When a galactic empire built entirely on fear suddenly showed weakness, the fear turned to rage, and the rage turned to revolution. Back on Earth, in the rebuilt command center that had once been hidden beneath Korean mountains, President Jin-woo Choi stood before a gathering that would have been impossible just months before. Representatives from dozens of liberated worlds filled the chamber, some appearing as holograms, others having traveled vast distances to be present in person. The diversity was staggering. Tall, ethereal beings with translucent skin stood next, to stocky, rock-like creatures who communicated through harmonic vibrations. Aquatic species appeared in specialized environmental suits, while energy beings manifested as controlled plasma fields. All of them had one thing in common: they had been slaves, and now they were free. Today, President Jin-woo declared, his voice carrying to every corner of the galaxy, through quantum communication networks, we establish a new order among the stars, not built on conquest and slavery, but on freedom and voluntary cooperation. No species will again suffer under the boot of empire if we have the power to prevent it. The founding charter of the Terran Commonwealth was signed with ceremonies that lasted for days. Unlike the Krillian Dominion, which had ruled through fear and force, the Commonwealth was built on a simple principle. Any world that wanted protection would receive it, and any species that wanted to join would be welcomed as equals. Admiral Dae-hyun, now bearing the title of Grand Admiral of the Commonwealth Fleet, stood at the observation deck of the orbital shipyard above Earth. The facility was working around the clock, launching new vessels daily. But these weren't warships designed for conquest. They were exploration vessels, hospital ships, colony transports, and yes, some military craft, but only enough to protect the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. Captain Yoon-ji-han approached with a data pad, her expression showing the same mix of exhaustion and satisfaction that marked all the veteran commanders. "Admiral, we've received formal requests for assistance from 12 more systems. Former Krillian slave worlds asking for help, establishing free governments and defending themselves against remaining Dominion forces." "Approved," Dae-hyun replied without hesitation. "Dispatch Captain Shin's battle group to the Rigel system. They're dealing with holdout Krillian garrison forces. Captain Jang can handle the Proxima colonies. They need help rebuilding their infrastructure after centuries of exploitation. As human ships spread across the galaxy carrying not weapons of war, but tools of reconstruction, The age of galactic empires built on oppression was ending. In its place rose something unprecedented, a true commonwealth of free worlds, protected by those who had learned that the ultimate price of peace was the willingness to fight for justice. The Krillians had come to Earth demanding surrender, expecting to add humanity to their long list of conquered species. Instead, they had awakened something that would change the galaxy forever, a species that refused to kneel, that chose to fight, and that understood that true strength came not from dominating others but from lifting them up. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, no longer shadowed by the fear of conquest. Somewhere in the vast cosmos, new species were taking their first steps into space, and when they did, they would find not predators waiting to enslave them, but friends ready to welcome them into a galaxy where freedom was not just a dream, but a promise kept by those willing to defend it. The war was over. The real work of building a better universe was just beginning. The end.